This is a sequel to the original Xenu Iceberg video I made back in, I think it was like spring 2020. No, it was like summer 2023. I think it was in May, because it was after I finished freshman year. But anyways, this is a brand new Iceberg that's created for mostly the Carson series, but there are some entries on here relating to Xenu 3 that I thought would be interesting to talk about, just because a lot of Carson stuff is actually intertwined with Xenu 3, because, you know, the Carson games originally started as a way to test concepts for Xenu 3, to, like, help save on, like, time I'd have to spend programming stuff, which is why, like, there's a lot of stuff tested in the Carson games. But there's also a lot of stuff in Xenu 3 that ends up being not only, like, in the plot of the Carson games, but also, like, characters appearing and stuff like that. So anyways, I'm gonna do this the same way as the last Iceberg video, where I just talk about each of these things and cross them off. If you don't know what an iceberg is for some reason, it's basically a meme template where you put like secretive or like interesting stuff relating to like a movie or a video game or something like that. In this case, it's stuff relating about the Xenu and Carson games, and the ones at the top are more well-known, while the ones at the bottom get more obscure. So I'm going to start with the very top then. And the way I did this format is the image on the right is the one that's underlined, so I'll start with that first. Again, the first level at the surface. Also, I got to do my obligatory and my recording check. Okay, looks good. It wouldn't be a Xeno original video if I didn't pause the recording like that. Anyway, so yeah, stuff at the surface is very well known. The first of these is the Chaos Mods Pentology. Probably everyone who, like, the few people who know about these games existing know what the Chaos Mods are. It started with 1 for the first game, expanded to Carson's 2 to 4, and it ended with Chaos 5 because I refused to make any more because the Carson 6 and 7 do not work with the Chaos Mod structure, like, in the slightest, because 6 is way too open-ended for it, and 7 is way too difficult for it. So, yeah, it ended with Chaos 5. I don't really have anything to talk about here. I haven't talked about before the Chaos Mods. Like, the Chaos Mods completely matched what I wanted to make with those games, but they're, like, really difficult, and I haven't played a single one after playing each of them for the video that single time. Especially Chaos 5. I had to play Chaos 5, like, twice for the footage, and I never want to touch that game again. Which also, I think it's about the 1-year anniversary. At the time I'm recording this in May, so it's probably about, like, the 1-year anniversary of Chaos 5. Okay. Death messages. I think this is on the Xenu one too. It's just referring to the fact that, like, when you die in certain parts of Xenu and Carson games, it says specific messages. In Carson, there's only a few I can think of. I think, like, Carson 7's really the only one that has notable ones from, like, the basement sections. I think all of those are pretty good. The only one I have, I think, here is this one, which is when you die in Basement 1. But, I think they're pretty cool. It was based on Spooky's house, Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion, where they have, like, really cryptic and cool-looking death screens when you die, so I was basing it on that. I guess, like, that's not really death messages. Like, you can die in the fire in the Citadel Sprockets and have Xenuette show up. I guess that's kind of like a death message. And I guess there's some specific stuff that, like, is kind of obscure. Like, if you fail the cooking minigame in Northwestern, it says the people eat you because they're so hungry. It says war ending 2. I guess that's like a death message, because I don't think that's in my footage, so anyways. The Infinite War. So this is one of those terms that's mentioned a lot in the Carson series, I feel like, but nobody ever really explains what it is. And it's not really officially explained until the Journey West at the very end, but basically, to give, like, a very brief summary of what it was, Master Eternal created Master Infinite to fight the Elder Beast, which was mentioned in Xenu Goes to Jail and some of what the Elder Knight said. After that, the two of them, Master Eternal and Master Infinite, father and son, ruled the light world together, even had fun, or whatever Xenu Original said. The two of them, like, kind of, like, did their thing together. Then, eventually, Master Infinite kind of got tired of Master Eternal wanting to be, like, hands-off with, like, people and, like, kind of letting them do their own thing. Master Eternal was, like, very much, like, let people live their own way, we can't do anything to intervene. Whereas Master Infinite is like, if we're so powerful, why don't we, like, use our abilities to actually help people and improve the world? So that was where they had a disagreement. Master Infinite discovers the Dark World. He didn't create the Dark World, it was already there, but he discovers it, And this is getting into complex lore, but the Dark World basically reshapes itself based on whichever light worlder enters it. So Master Infinite entered it, which causes it to turn into like a basically better version of Hearth. That better version of Hearth is like way nicer, and people start migrating there, which causes Master Eternal to get mad, and the two of them go to war. Master Infinite basically loses, and that's what the Infinite War was. And it results in the Light World and Dark World being sealed off from each other, and then Master Infinite wiping it. I mean, not Master Infinite, Master Eternal wiping everyone's memory to make them forget that him, Infinite, and the Dark World ever existed. So that's basically what it was. It was basically Master Eternal getting petty at Master Infinite for making a better world than him, and basically sealing him away, and the events of the Journey West deal more with that, since the main villain is trying to free Master Infinite. On that thing about, I guess it relates to later things, so I'll get it when I get there, but keep in mind that thing about like the light world, whoever enters, whichever light world or enters the Dark World, being able to reshape it, that's like important later. That was a lot for actually a top level entry. Anyways, the Counting Tower, this is a thing in Carson 2, it's gonna be in it's gonna be in Xenu 3. It's going to be a similar mechanic where you have to type codes in to prevent some like horrible event from occurring. I think the reason I put it here is because like the stuff Comrade Fuller says there was originally supposed to sound like it's like important, and that like it was very like important exposition, but at the time it wasn't meant to mean anything. But that kind of backfired, because actually the stuff Comrade Fuller said actually is kind of accurate and like ended up being what the series became. He mentions like how he's not the real original Hans Fuller, and that like the Xenu he's talking to isn't the real one, which it's still not really explained why Xenu enters the tower. Originally it was because I didn't want to put Carson into cool scenarios, so like when I had this cool counting tower I wanted to make it so Xenu instead, but basically Comrade Fuller predicted that there was the real Hans Fuller was like down in the Dark World somewhere making copies of himself. The Counting Tower, though, that'll be a thing in Xenu 3, and I guess it's kind of interesting that it's a structure in both the Light World and Dark World. Maybe that's important, I don't know. Bad endings, this kind of relates a little to, like, I guess there's really only, like, bad endings in Carson 5, 6, and 7. In Carson 5, you get a bad ending if you don't... What is it? It's if you don't get all the Dread Right-Hand members, you, instead of fighting... you fight Georgie instead of fighting Nixon as the final boss. And it kind of ends with Carson getting his project back and just leaving. Like, the plane never takes off, none of that stuff ever happens. And that's considered the bad ending. Xenon just, like, interrupts the game and says, you got the bad ending, do it again. Carson 6, the bad ending occurs if you don't get all the Kolob keys and you don't free Pandora at the end. What happens is you free Grind at the end, and you're gonna go back to your dorm, and then Xenon again interrupts the game, and then it shows like a skinless, it shows like the Cousin Elvin picture I like. I'll just find it. It just shows this picture, and like cuts off. Carson 7 does have bad endings. I don't think I had it in my footage. There's like two different ways. It's if you don't get all of the... I think it's if you don't get all the characters to go to the wedding. I think it's two ways, yeah. You can... It's like, basically, Molten Evil blows up the house. And I think it's if you don't get Ikara, she doesn't come in time to save everyone. Like, if you don't get all the items for her. And if you don't even meet Ikara, she doesn't even take you to Paul Revere's lab. So it's like two different failure scenarios. One for not even meeting Frosty's ghost, and one for not getting all three of the items you need. I think it's like a message that says, like, it's kind of dramatic. It says something like, evil reigns, the horsemen win, or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there is special text for if you don't get that stuff. Sea Battle theme. This is just referring to the fact that the Sea Battle theme appears in every game following Carson 2 when it was first used. Like, it appears in some way. It's used for, like, quizzes, or it's used for actual Sea Battle, or used for mini-games. It also refers to the fact that I'm using like a bunch of remixes of the Runegarter theme, which is what the actual title of that song is called, since it's a Kirby song. I guess as you can see in like Albert Reed's Sea Battle, there's like 10 versions of it that can all be picked. Senor Sex lore. This is referring to Senor Sex's backstory. Basically, the events of Carson 4. Carson bites into a peach and gets sent back to the present. Senora Sect takes the peach to Paul Revere because they want to make a new super soldier. They want to basically recreate Carson. They use her DNA and Carson's DNA in the peach, and I think they said like 200 years later, Senor Sect was born out of the peach. He was supposed to fight in the Gulf War, but they were too late, so instead he just got sent to Johns Hopkins, where basically the events happened from there. I don't really know how he got into contact with Flo Flo because he was the one that told Carson to go to Rochester. I don't really have an explanation for it now. I think it's probably just because he doesn't know what he was created for. He's basically doing whatever people tell him to, because I guess he's like a soldier in that aspect. So when Paul Revere sends him to Johns Hopkins to be the best student, he's going to do it however he can, whether it means sex selling Carson. When Flo Flo says like she needs his help to, I guess he's saying he believes that she wants to take over the light, like the dark world for the better, but she actually wants to destroy it, which people don't know yet. But he basically does what people tell him to. And like I think he does genuinely want Carson to like him, but he just believes that Flo Flo's thing's more important than that. UGC, that's referring to the room that's in Rochester. It's referencing the real robotics room where me and my friends would go and hang out. Pretty much all of senior year, we'd go to that room. That was just my recreation of it, and I liked how faithful it looked because I liked that room a lot. UGC stands for Underground Games Club. Why so many quizzes? So this is referring to the fact that I think out of 7 Carson games and 5 Chaos mods, so 12 games. 10 of those games have quizzes in them. I think the only ones that don't are Carson 2 and Carson 4. The reason for that is that because I really like I think it was on Newgrounds or something, the game The Impossible Quiz. It's like, when I was little, I thought it was like one of the funniest things ever, just because it's like a troll game where it's like you basically have to guess on every single answer, and like there's a bunch of crazy chaotic stuff that happens. I don't know why I haven't made a video where I play that game, because it's literally like one of the biggest influences to like when I make the quizzes and stuff. But the reason why there's so many quizzes that have like really stupid questions in them is because I like that Impossible Quiz a lot. Actually, End of Chaos 5 even has like a 100 question quiz, so like that's straight up like the Impossible Quiz. Glorious Xenu. Glorious Xenu used to be, it's kind of interesting, so she was gonna be a character who would appear in Xenu 3. She was gonna be the superhero representing... There's gonna be a thing in Xenu 3 that involved having all the religions fight each other, and some of those religions are on the Iceberg later. I don't think I even put Dadaism on here, but that was going to be on this Iceberg. But there's like pre-originals, post-originals, Dadaism, the Children of Zeit, the Normans, the Sixists, the Scientologists. There's like a bunch of them. They were each going to have like a champion who would fight for them in this like big war, and like whoever won was going to be the one to fight Emperor Xenu. Glorious Xenu was either going to represent the pre-originals or the post-originals. I can never remember which is why I think I scrapped them. Glorious Xenu is also going to stick around for like the future modern Xenu games, but like obviously I'm planning to end it at Xenu 3. So Glorious Xenu was kind of scrapped because of that. Though the Gamaker employee Gloria, who's mentioned like I think a single time during Boss Rush at the very end, she's named after Glorious Xenu. And then, when she eventually appeared in Carson 6, Gloria McGamick is named after the Gamaker employee Gloria, who's actually named after Glorious Xenu. So in a weird way, like, the modern Glorious Xenu is named after a character who is named after the original Glorious Xenu, in a weird way. Okay, there's a lot of exposition for the top levels. Permafrost. So Permafrost is mentioned, I think, for the first time in Carson 7 by Ikara. It's basically a special type of ice that they can cast that preserves things and basically seals them and prevents them from needing air or food or anything like that. So it's basically like a way to imprison things. It also never melts, like it can only be melted by magic. I also kind of forgot permafrost is like an actual term in real life, so ignore that. The main reason I think it's on here is that permafrost has kind of made its way into like the main Xenu canon now in the light world, because the Freuds kind of can cast permafrost, like they can cast the exact same thing Ikara does. And Ikara is like basically already like the Dark World version of Frosty a little bit. So it's like what the connection is between like the Freuds and like the Sisters' Time or whatever is like kind of unknown at the moment, but like it kind of has. That's an example of like a Dark World concept kind of making its way into the Light World. Permafrost, though, is also the thing that's like holding Master Eternal in place. So, not Master Eternal, Master Infinite in place, and it's like the thing that keeps the Light World and Dark World sealed from each other. So it like definitely has been mentioned in the Journey West. If it's not mentioned in the game right now, it definitely will by like Chapter 7 or whatever. The Knights, this is referring to the Sisters' Time, what I just mentioned. That's Ikara, Sednam, and Temuro, the 3 Knights. I feel like people know who they are. They have a big role in Carson 7 to 9. Albert Reed's Sea Battle, I think I mentioned this already. This was a game I made in response to Albert Reed taking over the game Subterfuge and adding a lot of lag. So the bit with Albert Reed's Sea Battle was that it's like Sea Battle, but it's really laggy. There's a lot of stuff, I think it's on here because there's a lot of stuff that got scrapped from this game. I'll actually see if I can find the list. My goal was to make this game like as quick as I could, kinda. So, I think I made it within, like, less than a week. I didn't even probably work on it for that long. But I had, I had a few things. There's going to be boat behavior, where you could change how the boats react. It's going to be based on Destruction Derby in Carson 5, where, you could have the lane behavior, where they follow you, the devil behavior, where they flee, the Edix one, where they inch forward, the Merchant one, where they do short bursts, or the Ivan one, where random. There's going to be an option for cannonballs to pierce, meaning you can go through multiple enemies. There's going to be endless mode that added, a ton of characters. It's going to have Founding Fuller, who, works as always. It's going to have Duke Fuller ask questions, but done by, I guess, Comrade Fuller. It's going to have Ned Phones, who would appear, who would just, I guess, appear as a blockade. I'm reading off a list right now. It's going to have Inferno Chi Fan, who had a water effect because he's stuck in the toilet at PSU. It's going to have Buddy Jolly, who eats mints that freeze everyone. I don't know what the mechanic would be there, though. It's going to have El Reddle. This would have been good. El Reddle appears, which makes a Billy Billy video playing in the corner with the really loud audio. I should have done that. That would have been good. It would have Xeno Original, who adds blur to the screen. The bit was going to be that he would take his glasses off. It'd have James Garner, who jumps on your boat as a distraction, which would, I guess, just distract you. It's going to have Skeets 8, who does the Carson 4 screen effects, like the spinning and the mirror images and stuff. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff planned for Endless Mode that I just never put in, and I don't know if I ever will. I think I'll save it for a possible Sea Battle mode in Carson 10 at this rate. PTFP Scandal. I don't want to talk about this one. I think people watching this video already know what that is. The Paladins. The Paladins are these guys. Though technically this is, oh yeah, that's here too, the Horsemen. The Paladins and the Horsemen are the same things. It's Vaccine Victor, Bombnonimus, Boxboy, and Molten Mike. They have their evil Horseman versions. What happened was they fought the evil wizard Vialthasor along with the Sisters' Time. His soul got split up into multiple pieces, and to prevent him from resurrecting, they each took on a piece of that, of his soul. They slowly corrupted them, turning them evil. So Boxboy was the first to become evil, becoming Pandora, the Horseman of Famine. I think he was followed by, I think it was Vaccine Victor next, who became Sinjection, the Horseman of Pestilence. Then there was Countdown, the Horseman of Death, and finally Molten Evil, the Horseman of War. They basically, Boxboy or Pandora's main goal is just to basically destroy the Dark World because he believes that's the only inevitable fate due to entropy. The other two are kind of helping him in that way. Molten Mike is kind of the most resistant of them all. So in Carson 7, he's kind of just doing his own mission to kill everyone. But they're pretty much the main villains as far as I'm focused. He used to be the sex members, but the sex members are barely in their own games by design, whereas these guys I want to have bigger roles. But yeah, the Paladins used to be these guardians who fought for the Dark World and tried to keep order, and they've slowly been corrupted into being the people destroying it. Also, all of what I just said relates to this last entry here. I'll get to that. Light Matter. So Sniper Krill has that really terrible lecture part in Carson 7 where she talks about what light matter, dark matter, and miracle matter are. That's, I think, one of the worst parts in the entire series, because it was basically me being like, if I'm gonna keep using these terms, I need to explain what they are. Basically, light matter is referring to anyone who comes from the light world, and anyone who comes from the light world and enters the dark world is really powerful for some reason, which explains how characters like the Ghost of Xenu original and Hans Fuller are able to do so much in the dark world. That's really all you have to know. Paragon, that's just referring to the name of the dark world. So the dark world is like what it's always been. The dark world's existed for as long as the light world has. Paragon, though, is to Hearth, is like to Hearth as dark world is to the light world, where it's just like the name of the world at the moment, I guess. So Paragon was like the civilization that they had starting from like the Infinite War to like the events of Carson Gets Exiled, where the Great Restructuring occurred, which is, I'll get to it. Why it's called Paragon, I don't want to talk about it. It's weird. It's not weird, it's just, I think it was like an arcade game or something that had like, maybe I can find it. Paragon. Is this, I don't think this is it. Basically, there was like, I think an arcade game or something that was like high fantasy with like monsters and stuff, and I was like, what if this was like what a Carson game looked like, where it's like high fantasy and like barbarians and stuff. And I think it's called Paragon, and it's like Carson Paragon or something like that. And I was like, I think I added the E edit and just kind of kept it. I don't remember. 2 Chaos 2 Storm was a beta. Basically, when the second Chaos mod came out, at the very end it says it's a beta and that there'll be more microgames added. That never happened because I just started putting the microgames into the mainline Carson games. Like, 2 Chaos 2 Storm had 25, Carson 6 had 5, and then like Carson 7 and Chaos 5 both had 20 games each. So like at this point we're at like 100 games pretty much. Wait. 45. Okay, we're at 90. Wait. 25, 30. I can't count. We're at 70. Still, though, it's a lot. Unless I'm missing some. Who knows? Okay. No, wait. 25, 25, 5. That's 55. So it's at 95. I counted wrong. Anyways, yeah, it was meant to be a beta, but I never ended up adding more microgames. I think what actually did it is when I made Rochester Halloween Hack, I was like, well, if I'm making a new Chaos mod before finishing the other one, I think it's not going to be a beta anymore, so that was just the full game. Oh, sixism, I mentioned this before. It's going to be a thing in the Journey West, but basically, whenever you see the Star of David, like the 6-pointed star in Xenu, they have a lot of those stars in like the RPG Maker stock files, and I'm saying it's the thing called the Sixus star. It's something used by edicts at the end of Journey West that some of the other religions adopt, but basically at the end of the Journey West, there's one religion, the Normans, and there's one religion, the Sixists. And the main thing that differs between them is whether or not they want to tell people about like the existence of magic in the Dark World and stuff. So that's kind of like a big divide in the company after Zero leaves. I don't have it all figured out yet, but basically that's what it's relating to. Children of Zeit's pretty simple. It's basically Zeit has a cult of people in Xenu 3 that believe in her mission of destroying the world, and some of those members are the Dreadheads from Xenu 1 that she is working with. Carson Cast's tier list changed the plot of 6 and 10. This is referring to when I made the Carson characters tier list with my friends. Carson started a bit that like Cactus Charles was like the best character ever that Harold kind of went along with. So that's the reason why Carson 6's plot treats Cactus Charles with like so much attention. Before that, like I didn't care about him at all, but in kind of in a way that led to like Xenu Airport Bus Driver. Like I probably wouldn't have made that game if Carson 6 and like Cactus Charles weren't so big of a thing. The cast tier list also changed 10 because it added the idea of like I think Powerful Pat was probably what it was. The like surprise boss that warps out of space and time out of nowhere and like kills. I don't remember who we would have killed. At this point, he's gonna kill Vialthasaur because like the entire series seems like it's leading to Vialthasaur being like resurrected or something. So the bit will be that Powerful Pat comes out of nowhere and like kills this guy that like the Paladins and Knights fought so hard to kill. I have no idea what he'll look like though. I still need to figure out what Powerful Pat will look like. Okay, tier 3. Oh, Vialthasaur. Okay, I'd mentioned him. Yeah, the Alphasaur, it was actually a name I thought was, like, stupid on purpose. Though, like, yeah, I still think it's kind of a dumb name, but, like, he's not very important to me. It's more so that the, like, horsemen are important, I think. But yeah, evil sorcerer who wanted to destroy the Dark World. These guys fought him and then split his soul up. And his soul has been slowly corrupting them. Most of these are Carson entries. The original 5 games refers to the original 5 Carson games. I think it was Duke University, Johns Hopkins, Rochester, but I don't remember if it was both schools or if it was just Rochester Institute of Technology. The 4th game, I can't remember. The 4th game might have been Case Western, which is now the 9th game. And the 5th game might have been Penn State or Elizabethtown. I actually have no idea because it was so long ago. This would have been like late 2022 to early 2023, honestly, because I think like I like figured I wanted to make 10 games like pretty soon. Full Original is the original final boss, so this relates to Carson 5. I mean, the old Carson 5, where it would have been only 5 games. Full Original was going to... I think it was Hans Fuller who was running around in the Dark World, and... I don't remember the Ghosts of Xenu Original. I guess the Ghosts of Xenu Original would have existed at that point. Because he was in Carson 3, and Carson 3 is done in May. So I think it was those two were going to merge to make Full Original, who would have been the final boss. And it was like... That was like Hans Fuller's goal. Like when Duke Fuller and like the other Fullers talk about it, they say they want to eat, like they want to get Ghost of Xenu Original because they'll make them powerful since he's a light worlder. Full Original, maybe we can find the picture. Full Original, that's the reason why Full Original has the eyelashes, horns, and halo is because he's supposed to look like a mix of the Ghost of Xenu Original and Xenon. I don't think he has those in any other appearance, but yeah, Full Original is a character I wanted to do more with, just because Founding Fuller, like, he's in a lot of games where he's, like, not exactly a personality, he kind of just fights you, but Full Original I want to give more of a personality to, where he's this, like, Dark World Fuller that thinks he's better than the original, and, like, something involving that where he thinks he's going to be the one to take over now, and, like, ultimately, I guess he does, like, get his goals, like, he does get, like, all the other Fullers, and he is, like... it's in Carson 10, I guess. I won't spoil it. Character limits. This refers to a rule I sort of have in my head where I want to use characters in a max of 3 games for Carson games. The reason for this is to encourage... Okay, the actual reason for it was because I didn't want it to be that the Carson games had a cast where you could be like... If someone says, like, what's the cast of Xenu, you pretty much say the main characters of Xenu 2 because they're also in Xenu 3, but, like, if someone says, what's the cast of Carson, there's not really a list of, like, 10 characters where you're like, these are the main 10 characters. I would kind of say that at that point now, because, like, I feel like HH Xenu is, like, pretty big, but, you know, at the time, this would have been, like, Carson's, like, 1 to 4 when I introduced this rule. So that's the reason why a lot of characters appear max 3 games. Like, it was like Chester only appeared in 3 games. I guess he technically appears as Ashes, but I'm not counting that. That's why Goldie only appeared in 3 games. It's why, like... Again, like, yeah, that's kind of an old rule. Like, a lot of the Fullers have been in more than 3 games. A lot of characters... The exception I made was that, like, everyone would be allowed to appear in Carson 10, because the goal was try to use everyone, but I still kind of keep this rule in effect. It's, like, a way to encourage creativity by not overusing characters. So that's, like... Still followed a little bit, I guess. The 10 rules of development. I'll just go to the Xenu fandom page to read this, because it's on Xenon's page. So, the 10 rules of development... I haven't finished writing this page yet. 10 rules of development were something that I used during the development of Xenu. It was kind of an informal list of rules. It was mostly for a writing thing, to try to keep things, like, professional. But the rules were listed here. Xenon was basically... I mean, you can basically read what I wrote. Xenon was basically created to defy these rules, which is the reason why, like, she swears so much, why she's, like, very violent, why she makes a lot of obscure references, stuff like that. That's really all I have to say about it. Originally, though, Carson 7 was going to involve a plot where the Ghost of Xenu original was trying to break all 10 rules to cause, like, the Dark World to be destroyed or something. This was, like, really early. This was, like, over a year before I actually made Carson 7, so, like, I don't entirely remember the details. But part of that would have involved, that was where Xenon came from. She was originally called Xenu at exclamation point, and then was changed to Amber later. But she was, like, basically created in opposition to these 10 rules of development. I still kind of keep those in place for the Journey West. I guess I kind of broke, like, the no love rule a little bit, because, like, Joseph Sniff is married, but, like, it's fine. I still, like, the most important one, I think, is still, like, no outside references. I, like, don't want the Journey West characters to make, like, references to anything in pop culture. Speaking of the Journey West, Dark World characters in the Journey West. So, at a certain point I realized I like the Carson series a lot and want to use a lot of stuff from it. Some of those were characters, so Beetroot has appeared in the Journey West, and like it's very explicit, like Pratami says, like, I struggle to think of a world where this thing's considered iconic, which is kind of like a direct reference to the fact that Beetroot's been in like so many Carson games in the Dark World. Placeholder Pam, I guess, technically appears, but, like, she's barely a character, and she's only used as, like, an actual thing in coding. There's other characters. I think there'll be some characters in Chapter 8, but I haven't made that one yet. But I have kind of gotten to a point where I do want to reference Carson stuff in the main games, just because I do like the Carson stuff a lot now. One thing, though, is I am going to avoid putting Casteron. I might put Casteron in as a cameo, but I'm not going to mention the Knights at all in it, because I feel like that's going too far. And I'm definitely not going to mention the Paladins. Like, I can't have, like, a cardboard box character show up in, like, a Xenu game. Dreadbug. This is the name for the real Hans Fuller from the Light World that's running around in the Dark World. Dreadbug is actually in the end of Xenu 3. I think Full Original mentions it, but Dreadbug is Hans Fuller in that game. You have to fight him 5 times, which is what all the Dark World Fullers are referencing. They're referencing his forms in that game, which are a bee, a dragonfly, a worm, a flea, and a scorpion. After that, you eventually face Zeit, and Zeit corrupts Hans Fuller with Void, I guess is the official term. It's basically like the opposite of life, and it causes, like, things to deteriorate like the core of the planet, which is how Zeit's trying to destroy Hearth. It's also that corruption that results in the barrier between the Light World and Dark World getting weaker, which is why Carson is able to transfer between them in Carson 3. But, anyways, Dreadbug, he gets corrupted with Void and becomes Dreadbug. He fights Xenu gang. He loses, so Zeit banishes him to the Dark World, and from there, he realizes that now he can take over the Dark World instead of the Light World, since he's way more powerful down there. And that's what leads to there being so many Dark World Fullers. I don't know why Dreadbug was in Chaos and Storm, but he'll have a role in Carson 10. That's like his first real appearance. And he's been mentioned a lot. Son of Car, this is referring to Carson's car that he gets in Carson 6. The reason it's here is because the plan is that that car is him from the future. He's become a, like, transformer robot thing, and he's come back to the past to help Carson. He's currently stuck as a car, but he's come back to the past to help Carson learn to change his ways, because Carson's evil mindset leads to the destruction of the Dark World, and Son of Cars basically went back in time to try to get Carson to change his ways. It's going to be a thing in Carson 10. It's not all planned, but basically the car is Carson. Let's see, the Great Restructuring, I talked about this a bit. Basically, whichever Light Worlder enters the Dark World reshapes it in their image. So, originally, it was made into Paragon by Master Infinite. He was frozen in permafrost, so there was really no Light Worlder in charge until the Ghost of Xenu original showed up. And that's why it's so similar in appearance to Earth. That's why there's a lot of Earth places. That's why there's a lot of Xenu characters there. That's why there's a lot of references to old things. It's because it's been reshaped in Xenu Original's mind. Was that necessary to explain? Probably not. But I think I think Sniper Krill of all characters mentions it, and Sednom will talk about it a lot in Carson 8. Pre-patch Nixon, this is referring to the fact that, like, pre-patch, so this is kind of vague. There's technically, like, there was Nixon pre-patch, Nixon post-patch, and then Nixon, like, post-second patch. Pre-patch Nixon was literally impossible. It was, like, the most hard fight ever, and I had to patch it because it was way too difficult. It was then way too easy. Like, Carson found out if you just spam the attack button, he won't be able to use any of his attacks, so it got patched again to be, like, more balanced. But it's referring to the fact that, like, there was actually a point where Nixon was literally felt like an impossible to defeat god in the end of Carson 5. Original Sinister Sex graphics, this is just referring to the fact that the sex members' faces I changed, so it's not using real images. It felt unnecessary, so I just changed them. I already talked about Amber. That's just Xenon's original name. I think they reference it a lot, but it was because she wanted to put Xeno in Amber at one point, like Jurassic Park. I guess one thing I could mention, I don't know, Xenon, like, possibly has a lot of connections to Xenuet. Like, they look a little similar, I guess, in that they're both, like, Xenus with eyelashes, but, like, Amber and Ruby are both gemstones. That's really the only connection. They both use voice clips from the Milk games. I don't know, like, how much of a connection there is there besides them just both being Xenus. Carson gets sexiled the 2022 demo. This is referring to the demo. I think it's included with the one on Itch.io that I have uploaded, but it was like a troll game. I think it was a repackaged version of, like, Cox DX, which was like the Xenu 1 troll game I made for Carson. It was basically Carson was entered his room and be like, I'm not gonna be I don't even remember what he says. He basically enters and says, you've been hacked, though. I think I made it in, like, December 2022 in response to Carson getting sexiled. And then Carson got sexiled again in January. Which, maybe he went back to school sooner than I did, I don't really remember, but he got sexiled again, which I think led to me making a full game. The Fuller House, this is referring to if Founding Fuller catches you in Carson 4, he takes you to the Fuller House where you have to fight him. I don't remember actually what happens if you lose to Founding Fuller, if he just kills you, or if you're taken back to the map. But you also don't get anything for killing Founding Fuller too, from what I remember. You might get a stronger sword. That might be something that's scrapped, though. I don't remember. This isn't on the Iceberg, but I literally don't remember the development of Carson 4 at all. Like, it would have been spring or summer 2023, but, like, I kind of feel like the game just showed up. Like, I remember working on it, but I have, like, very little memory of the development of it. I kind of feel like I was just, like, I started it, and then the game was done. So because of that, I forget a lot of the details about that game. But, yeah, the Fuller House might be a thing in Xenu 3, where it's a similar thing where if Hans Fuller catches you, he takes you there, and you have to fight him. Dread Phones and Dread Wanderer. There's 6 Dread Head mutations in in Xenu 3. Dread Eye, Dread Wood, Dread Herring, Dread End, Dread Baron, and Dread Knot. There were 2 other ones, Dread Phones and Dread Wanderer, that I had scrapped. These 2 ended up being Dread Phones, who was Phineas Royd, and Dread Wanderer, who's Wanda Royd. So, they basically ended up becoming HH Xenu's siblings. The War of 1812, I think it's mentioned in Carson 7, or Carson 5, I don't remember, but basically, after the events of Carson 4, the Americans killed the remaining lobsterbacks for their pelts, and the only one living was Fiebler. And following in Carson 7, when Arakai kills Fiebler, H.H. Xenu says like it was a crime because it was an endangered species since he was the only one left. I don't really know a ton about the War of 1812, like I just went to Niagara Falls and they talked about it there because I think there was like Fort Niagara was involved, but I just put that on because it was another historical event that had a role in the Dark World. Gamiker lore made canon. This is a picture from Groundhog Emulator. Really, there's no lore for Gamiker besides like what's in Boss Rush, and it's like very vague. But embracing what I said in Carson 4, that Gamaker was like a company that made a console that did really badly and went defunct, and Richard Ver ended up purchasing the company as a front to test out the Gamaker Worlds technology. It's on the Richard Ver fandom page, but it's like some like convoluted stuff that's kind of still I'm still working through. But that's an example where something in Carson became fully canon. Like I want to go with the idea that Gamaker was an old company that Ver happened to buy just so he could like continue his research thing. The mirror dimension is referencing an old game concept I had called the mirror, and that's what the segment in Blizzard Bluff was, involving the mirror and looking behind you to look for Bobo. The mirror dimension, all the characters that appeared in there too were characters that would have been in that mirror game. And that's really it. It's just, I think, saying that it's an old concept. The black and white tree, this is referring to the cave that you can find in Philadelphia in Carson 4, where there is a black and white tree you can find. It's referencing Buddy Simulator 1984, which uses a black and white art style, because originally I had considered making the Journey West fully a black and white game. I know nothing about making graphics, so that didn't happen. But I put that tree there. That was something that I had drawn myself by tracing over another tree. It took forever, and I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm making a full game that looks like this. So, because of that, I just put in there as a reference. If you also go behind that tree, you hear Old Edix's voice. It's just like a blank text box, but Old Edix was there to test her voice, and that's also why Sweat Shurchin speaks with the trader's voice, is because I wanted to try Merchant's voice at a different pitch. Carson 4 tested a lot of stuff for the Journey West. It tested the entire Philadelphia battle, was basically a rough form of the combat in the Journey West. And it's kind of quaint seeing it now in comparison. Geez, they're only 3 tiers in, okay. The Scrap Squad. There's a lot of scrapped characters in the Carson games that end up making it back in. So, Molar Mole Man and Sniper Krill are an example of them. Molar Mole Man was in a throwaway line in Carson 7 that wasn't even put in the game. Or maybe it was put in the game. It was Xenu talks about Molar Mole Man taking his teeth out. And that would have been the only mention of Molar Mole Man. The bit was supposed to be that it's this character you've never heard of that's mentioned as if he's important. But then he ended up being in the game. So that didn't happen. And Sniper Krill was supposed to be in Rochester Halloween Hack as a weapon you could buy to kill enemies. That also didn't happen. I like the two of them, though. I'll probably use them in Carson 9 or 10. Immortal 1 and Demonic 1 are referring to Xeno and Xenon, so it's a thing in Carson 8, but basically there's a bunch of Xeno and Xenons that all have the 1 suffix at the end of them. Basically, they're all different versions of Xeno Original that have split up. So Immortal 1's the ghost of Xeno Original, since he's stuck in limbo as an angel and a devil. And Demonic 1's referring to Xenon because she's a code demon thing. There's a bunch of other ones, though. There's Euphoric 1 and I don't remember any of their names. Angelic 1, Devilish 1. I guess all the guys that appeared in Albert Reed's Sea Battle. The reason they have the 1 suffix was it was taken from this Kirby Mass Attack video on YouTube that I liked, where they added a 1 suffix to each of the Kirbys, and I liked the idea, so I did that with my guys. 5 years after I watched the video that one time. Bailed and Brian Multiverse. So, Bailed and Brian, it's a story written by me and Harold. Well, it was written by him and Ryan Parsons. And then I wrote the second part with Harold, and we started working on the third part. Bailed and Brian, they're pretty influential. They appear in Xenu 3 planned, relating to the Counting Tower, but they're also in Carson 4 and Carson 6 for a little bit. And the Richard Nixon that's in Bailed and Brian is a reference to the Richard Nixon that's in Carson's a reference to the Nixon that's in Bailed and Brian. It's called a multiverse, though, I guess, because there's 2 of them. There's one's in the light world and one's in the dark world. Have a relaxing trip. I'll actually find this. Can I find that postcard? This is referring to if you like find all the characters in, I think there's 10 of them. If you find all the characters and get them to come to the tent, you get this picture from Super Mario Sunshine that I just traced over. Or not traced over, but characters over, so it's really blurry. You got Carson, that's really funny in retrospect who some of these characters ended up being. Like, that's like Carson right next to the like main villains of the series. Founding Fathers, you got Nixon, you got Henry, Travis, you got Xenu, Golvey, Mag Myrtle, Roe Turtle, Forsley and the Lobster Backs, the Trinity of Terror, the bad characters. Oh wait, Nixon's here twice. That's him and that's him. Switch Urchin, Xenu, Dexter, Senora, Strong Sammy, that's his name, yeah. The Roots, Esther, AO5, Jack Frost Knight, Holly Frost Jr. No, it's Holly Frost Sr. Convoluted. Anyways, I don't think I got it in my footage because I missed the inflamed pants, but yeah, that's a thing you could get. The LCDS, the Sky Bridge, is the thing in between the light and dark world. It's called the Light Counter Dimensional Space. It's called the LCDS because that's the name of the school I went to. That's the only reason why. Dark matter, I already talked about. No, I didn't. Well, dark matter is the opposite of light matter. It's what... There's people in the dark world that are like real people, whereas they're just like normal people. But then there's dark matter people that are basically immortal, where you can destroy them, but they'll come back to life. That's what the dark world fullers are made of. That's what Senor Sex is made out of. That's what people like Russ Dreamer are made out of. It's basically an unnecessary explanation for why characters keep dying and coming back to life. Sexology changes. This is referring to the sexology versions of the game, which the sexology is honestly, I think, sunk cost fallacy, where it's probably not necessary, but I kind of still want to have a game that has all the games in one. But the sexology does have some nice changes. It makes it so you can save in Carson 1. It makes it so Carson 5, some of the minigames work as intended, because Destruction Derby does not work in Carson 5. And it's actually fixed to work, and it's actually fun in Carson 5. There's, probably more changes. I can't think of any at the moment. I think I changed stuff involving, like, glitches and stuff that were in the original ones. I removed Joyce. That's not really important, though. She's replaced with Rick the Rat. I don't remember why I removed her, but it happened, like, a year ago, so it's kind of late at this point. The Dream Realm, this is referring to the darker world, that's also what it's known as. Basically, below the dark world is the darker world, which is also the same as like hell, kind of. And it's basically, it's still planning it. It's going to be a thing in Carson 9, but the Dream Realm is where Unfungal comes from. It's an area that like Sinjection hangs out a lot at. It's where Evil Kane and like Helder Post are, which is where Xenu goes in Carson 9. It'll involve stuff, but it's basically like, it relates to the Noosphere, which is this like term related to like human perception and stuff, so it's complicated and it's still kind of a thing in development. 8th Century Pete, this is a character that was like gonna be in the Carson games but never really ended up happening. He's mentioned in Carson 3 and 6. It's basically, it would have been a Hans Fuller variant. It might have been like Dreadbugs in disguise. But at this point, I honestly don't really know, and he's probably never going to appear at this rate. Fuller Prime is kind of confusing, and it kind of made things complicated, but basically, he is the Dark World native Fuller. So he's not a Fuller created by Dreadbug. He's the one that was at SL Labs in the Dark World. And he would have been the one that met Xenu when Xenu was at Xenu was at SL Labs. So it's basically the Dark World equivalent of Dreadbug, who is the Light World Hans Fuller. And he's kind of helping Light World Hans Fuller, but at a certain point, probably during the events of like Carson 8, he realizes he's better off on his own because Dreadbug and Full Original fighting is like too much for him. The Shard of Truth is an item in Carson 3, and I think it's in Carson 5. It's referring to the fact that when you use the Shard of Truth in Carson 3, It reveals the ghost of Xenu original, but it also makes Carson look like Xenu. I don't know if that's supposed to mean anything. Probably not, because I think I might have removed it in sexology because I didn't want to imply anything with that. Bad Turn. Bad Turn's an event that you can get in the Chaos mods where it basically causes the game to crash. I think I just put it here because Bad Turns managed to like be referenced in like 5 games and it's like still kind of obscure. It's in like every Chaos mod after after Chaos 2. And I think I don't remember if it is referenced in Carson 7 or not, but I don't know, I kinda like it. There's a really bad explanation of it, but realistically it's gonna be me watching this video and I already know what all these entries are about. Bus Driver, Xenu City Bus Driver is named after a Xenu 3 quest. This is true. It was gonna be there's like a list of like 30 planned quests I have for Xenu 3. One of them was just titled Xenu City Bus Driver and involved like, I think Xenu and Blizzy and like maybe Xenuette going into the city to like basically put those characters together and see what I would get out of it. Obviously, Xenu 3 hasn't been started yet, so it's like mostly just planning, but I used that title for this Xenu City Bus Driver game. That game was originally created because it was based on Harold's exploits with the Mormon girls, where like they basically wouldn't leave him alone, even though it seemed very avoidable. But the reason why Blizzy and Frosty appear in that game, Blizzy's brain and Frosty's ghost appear in that game, is because Blizzy would have originally been in the Xenu City Bus Driver game, that would have been in Xenu City Bus Driver quest, that would have been in Xenu 3. And if Blizzy's brain wasn't in that game, I don't know if we would have Ikara and Sednam now, because that was kind of what helped shape them into the characters they are now. Actually, well, yeah, Carson 6 was after Xenu City Bus Driver. And yeah, it was, because that was January and then that was March. And that was, Carson 6 was when I was like, I'm gonna use these Dark World Freuds for the Sisters' Time. That was before they were officially called the Knights. But that's what I mean, that's getting to a point later. Xenu Student Union double retcons, I'll wait for it there. But it's complicated. I already talked about pre-originals and post-originals. One of them likes Xeno Original, one of them doesn't. I think because one of them likes how the world was before Xeno Original did stuff. One of them didn't, but the thing is, like, what did Xeno Original even do? He, like, really only did stuff to one town and one prison, so, like, I don't even know which is which. Dodism, I also kind of... Oh, no, I didn't talk about Dodism. That's another religion. I think it's mentioned in the Journey West. But it's going to be in Xenu 3, too, but it's worship of astrological bodies, specifically the sun. And there's some people in Xenu 3 that the Gamager people work with, involving Dodism. Both of these will be long. I'll do this one first. So Journey West Chapter 6, I haven't uploaded the video for it yet. I'm recording this video in May. I finished this chapter back in, like, January, and have been, like, adding stuff to it slowly. But, it's, like, a lot of reused content. I don't really think it's a bad thing, but, like, the map is reused from Carson 6. The Incubus fight is reused from Sir Foles-a-Lot. The thing I feel about, like, reusing stuff is if you make it better, it's fine to reuse it. So, like, I think the map is better in the Journey West. The Incubus fight is, like, pretty much the same as the Sir Foles-a-Lot one, so they're pretty similar. But, like, the lead up to it I like with the sewers. I think that part's alright. The Monster Chase from Carson 7 is reused for the Winotar Chase, and it's actually better than the one, because Monster Chase is one of the worst parts of Carson 7. The Hospital uses the maps from Carson 5, and it uses the VHS tape game from Carson 7 for catching butterflies. I think it's maybe slightly better in the Journey West, but they're pretty similar. And I didn't really reuse anything. I think the toy store for Abigail's thing is the Kitty Co map. I reused a lot of maps too. I was feeling lazy. I hate making maps. It's like my least favorite thing to do in making games. But yeah, a lot of stuff in the game was ended up being reused maps, at least in Chapter 6 specifically. There's probably ones I'm forgetting too. It's kind of funny though, like looking back at it and being like, oh, this is where. Oh yeah, the Silverwood Times is the Dark World Times. The Silverwood Labs is the Dark World, Deep Dark State Lab. The hospital's in the same area, and it uses the map from Carson 5. There's no Flory Park, there's no docks, there's no White Viper. The alley, though, is there, though. The alley is where the White Viper would be. The car rental place, Hertz Rentals, replaced with the park where you fight Big Yam Yum. The giant stairs are replaced with like mountains in the Journey West version of the map. The town hall is replaced with the bank in Carson 6 is replaced with the town hall in the Journey West. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. Okay, this is a long one. So, literally every single thing in Salt Lake City in Carson 6 is a reference to something old, and that was by design. In fact, there used to be like a thing in the lore where it was like something the Fullers did attracted, like, with using like some sort of like call signal thing. It attracted everything Xeno Original created to the city, which is why they're all like congregated there, and that would have explained why the Citadel of Sprockets crashed. I don't think that was said in game. I think it's said with a single line where it's like one of the Fullers says, "We sent out a signal that would bring his creations to the city." I don't really know. But anyways, let me see if I can name them all. Oh wait, I have a list written. Did I delete it? Hang on. Let me pause this too. Okay, I found the list. So references in Carson 6. There is, let's see. I guess starting with the forest. The forest is named Gracie Falls after a thing that would have been in Canines in the Closet, which is why the dogs appear there. There's Grimtoll Manor with Romulo Grimm, who's in Carson 3 before. There's the TSA stories with the Citadel of Sprockets, which consists of the resource story and the story about the robot. Dread Phones doesn't appear, but there's, he wasn't a reference, but the Citadel stories, in replace of that was Sentry Egley, who had the Xenu characters ranked by power list, which I guess is like technically an old reference to something. There is in Main Street, there's like a bunch of random characters. There's like Eli Dotane, there's the Scrapped Ghosts, there's probably other stuff I'm forgetting. The Restaurant Row has the Bakery Pals place, has the McCrawley Mob, it has the Love Potion place, which it's kind of funny how important Love Potions ended up being to the series. It's like literally, I think, the first story I ever wrote, and it's like weird that it became important to the series. Has the Five Nights at Eddie's restaurant. The Industrial Place has the Deep Dark State's not a reference to anything, but the Hitchhiker inside is what's it called? The Dark World Times place has a bunch of references to things. Like the characters aren't references to anything, but they have like a bunch of old stories in them that are referencing stuff. What else is there? The hospital actually doesn't have any references, surprisingly. I think it's just because I wanted to put another hospital in my game. Oh yeah, there's Kitty Co, that's a reference. And then you got Salt Lake City, which like literally every single island's a reference to something. Okay, like half of them are. There's like the Pattern Block 1, there's Any, there's Toily, there's pretty much references to every old game concept I had, like The Mirror, Haunted Universe, Drive for Fun, Space Squad, Islands of Exploration, School Story, Chaos at the Capitol. And then even some of the ones like the All the Way Up game, like the Cow one from Farmageddon, and like a bunch of other stuff that nobody knows what I'm talking about. Flory Park had Celio, it had the Wolf Gang, it had the characters from the amusement park, like Scully and like TikTok or whatever their names were. It had there's probably more people I'm missing, but basically 95% probably of the new characters in that game were references, and I don't know if that's including the 100 characters from Haunted Universe. And I like the game because of that. I like seeing I'm a narcissist, I like seeing all my characters show up. Alright. getting near the bottom now. So, I'll start with this one, 6 Light Worlders. This is what this picture is. That says, for millennia we were isolated. This is the message that appears if you die in the first basement segment in Carson 7. It says, for millennia we were isolated. Now, not 1, but 6 of you have fallen into our world. Have you brought the end of the world with you? The 6 Light Worlders it's referring to here are like, I don't think ever officially stated where they give a list, but they're Detective Hackster, Xenu Original, Hans Fuller, Claude Burnett, Calvin Taylor, and Flo, as in Flo Flolo, because Flo Flolo is a Light Worlder, actually. And she just looks weird because her face got distorted when she entered the Dark World. Don't worry about it. This isn't really counting the 3 Knights, because they've been in the Dark World so long, they basically just consider themselves to be Dark Worlders. In actuality, that might be because I made this image before the 3 Knights were officially a thing. I don't really remember how late in the development that happened. Which, let's say this one, Carson 7's scope more than doubled. Carson 7 went through, I think the term is development creep, where like the scope keeps getting bigger and bigger. Carson 7 was like meant to be probably like a 3-hour game max, but instead it became like a 5.5-hour game. A list of things that weren't going to be in Carson 7 originally. There wasn't going to be full Khan's chases or a full Khan's fight. There wasn't going to be Moriarty. There wasn't going to be any basement segments. There wasn't going to be a Holy Poly, meaning like Galvanic Grounds would have been way different. There wasn't going to be Nakara. There wasn't going to be a Molten Evil appearing all the time. Like, he was going to be the final boss, but it would have been way different. There wasn't going to be previously on segments. There wasn't going to be Freaky Fullers. There wasn't going to be... What else is there? The hand members were always going to be in it, but I don't think the Torrent Tunnel segments were going to be as long, because some of those parts are kind of big. Like, Wanda's Rift is, like, really long. Basically, the game kept getting bigger and bigger, and also, there's, like, way too much talking in it. The reason why there's so much talking is because I wrote a lot of the dialogue when I was on a work trip for my co-op, and I had, like, nothing else to do because, you know, like, they didn't assign me work to do. Like, the work I would do would be at the factory, not, like, while I was there on co-op, so I didn't really have anything to do at night. So I would just write dialogue, which is why there's so many Xeno and Xenon scenes that are really long. It's why all the exchanges between Carson and the other characters are so long. That's, if you're wondering why the game has so much dialogue, that's the reason why. Especially Molten Evil. Molten Evil talks a lot. He has a lot of exposition to give. The Dread Left Hand is referring to characters, I don't know if they'll ever appear, maybe they'll be in 9, but they were characters that were scrapped for Carson 8. They would have appeared alongside Unglorious Xenu, where I don't know where she is, if she's on here. So, I'll say it now because I can't find if she's on here. Unglorious Xenu was an evil version of Glorious Xenu, and that was originally what Glorious Xenu was going to be. All the way back in Carson 4, which was like 9 months before Carson 6, the Ghost of Xenu original says Glorious Xenu's crazy, and that, like, if you ever meet her, that, like, she's trouble. The reason for that was going to be that there's going to be a mechanic where Glorious Xenu would show up every so often and, like, chase the player and attack them. It was based on Fury Bowser from Bowser's Fury. That's the reason why it uses Bowser's Fury music in Carson 6. That idea never ended up happening, and instead I made Glorious Xenu, like, pretty nice and, like, basically, like, a good person, instead of being, like, evil for no reason. But as a relic from that, there was going to be a part where Unglorious Xenu would appear in Carson 8. I don't think that's going to happen at this point, but the Dread Left Hand were going to help her. The Dread Left Hand might appear in Carson 9, fighting alongside Midley. The members, I already have the members planned. It would be 6VN, the Crab, Marlowe, who's the... 6VN would be the Fibler of the group. He'd be a crab. Marlowe would be the Ponchulette of the group, as in, like, another child. Tops would be a potato with a bunch of eyes on it, would be the Fernando of the group. Woolian would be the... what's his name? Croft of the group. It'd be a glove instead of a mitten, instead of a sock. I forget who the Roosevelt equivalent was. I had it written down somewhere. Hang on, maybe I can find it. There wouldn't be a Typerhead equivalent. There wouldn't be a Deviled Eggley equivalent. Project Dark, I think, was going to be called like Plan D, and it was like a lock-related thing. I don't remember if there's Wanda or not. Let me find this list. Hang on. 6 VM. It's all concepts. Well, I can't find it, but yeah, that's something like what they would have been. It would have been the evil version of the Dread Left Hand. Yeah, I can't find this list. I don't know if it'll happen or not. Wingdings, this is referring to a throwaway line in Carson 6 where Dr. Devilman says that the first people to come from the light world to the dark world were wingdings, people with wings. And that's listed as what Akara's species is in Carson 7, so that's just a minor attention to detail that probably no one noticed. Xenu Student Union Devil retcon. So I was talking about this. Basically, there's Holly Frostia Sr., who appears in Carson 4. She's originally Frostia, but then she says, I'm probably going to be retconned into being Holly Frostia Sr. or something. And then later she is referred to as Holly Frostia Sr. Holly Frostia Sr. had a daughter who, I don't ask why it took 300 years for her to have a daughter, but her daughter, Holly Frostia Jr., is around in Xenu Student Union. However, Holly Frostia Sr. was at some point turned into Holly Frostia's ghost, who was later referred to as Frostia's ghost because I wanted to stop referring to them as Student Union characters. So it was going to be that Frostia's ghost was one of the sisters' time. Not Holly Frostia's ghost, just that's Frostia's ghost now. However, then I decided I wanted to make more original characters, so I turned her instead into Ikara, instead of being Frostia's ghost, which is what's seen in Carson 7. So it's like a double retcon in that way. The first retcon is making it so they're not Student Union characters, and then the second retcon was making it so they're not Xenu characters. So yeah, overly complicated. Miracle Matter, that's the third type of matter. It's specifically what Xeno Original and Hans Fuller are made out of, where they're light worlds that were already really anomalous. One of them's a Gamaker avatar thing, and the other one is this weird bug thing. So because of that, that's how they're able to make clones of themselves so easily. That's also why Xenon says she uses Miracle Matter for making her Miracle Chip thing, so I think that's really the only mention. Nora Ann Gordon, so she's actually in Carson 8 now, but Nora Ann Gordon would have been, it's just an anagram of Radon, Argon, Neon, and if I needed a name for Xenon, that's what it was going to be. But she just appeared as her own character in Carson 8 and runs the figurine thing, so never mind. Hexter's office in Carson 4, this refers to that you can, when you go to the submerged city, there's a bunch of doors, and you can't go into any of the buildings, but one of them takes you to an empty version of Louis Hexter's office. You can go in there with Daxter, and she says, I'll just find what it actually says, hang on. I'll just actually find it because I don't remember, because it's kind of obscure, but I think it's if you walk to the office, Daxter says something. Which I don't think Carson made any references to Hexter looking like Daxter, because he would have met her. So she says, why does this place feel familiar? It says there's a man under the desk, but isn't his time yet. So I guess Hexter was always in his office down there. And his office does appear in Carson 7, so how it got connected to the house, I don't know. And honestly, I don't think Daxter even is connected to Hexter in any way. I think it's just resemblance. Xenu Civil War would have been a thing in Xenu 3, where after Emperor Xenu shows up, the group splits up. I think it would have been based on how many of the friendship quests you did. They choose to stay with you or go with Emperor Xenu. This was so long ago that I don't really even remember anything else about it, so I really don't have anything to say. This was 2022. Eggley locking and code breaking, these go together. These are two techniques in the Chaos mod you can use to give yourself an advantage. Eggley locking refers to the way that the Eggley Begley event's programmed. basically, if you're able to stall it by entering rooms before the event can trigger, it basically resets the event and gives you more time before a new event will occur. And code breaking is a similar thing, where when you get the code is event, you can stall it and prevent more events from occurring. Because of how quickly in proximity the events occur, if you're able to stall them in any way by getting longer events and then preventing them from occurring, you're able to prevent way more events from occurring. Carson 3 interest skip, this is referring to if you interact with the painting in the hotel room, it gives you the option to skip to, I think it's Flo-Flo's room in University of Rochester. So it saves you about 2 minutes maybe. It honestly doesn't save you a ton of time, but it's kind of a neat feature that I think is obscure. I don't remember, in Xenu Master Reset Edition, you used to also be able to... Let me see if it's still a thing, actually. You used to be able to skip directly to the scary castle part of hard mode. So that's still a thing. Oh, yeah, it is a thing still. Look at that. I didn't know that. I don't know why you'd want to skip to that part. It's scary. Xenu Air Blimp Driver. I didn't put Airport Bus Driver on here. Maybe I figured I'd have the game done by the time I was making this video, but Air Blimp Driver would be the third game in the Bus Driver series. The second one's Airport Bus Driver, the first one's City Bus Driver. This would be a game that has the Dread right hand members, Akara and Molten Mike in it. And my plan was for it to be a dating sim where it's kind of like the other driver games where it's antics and a lot of trial and error trying to find the right option. I don't know if I'll ever make it, but my goal was to try to use an actual program like Python to make an actual visual novel, because if Todd Union from Visual Novel Village could figure it out, then so can I. I don't know what it'd be about yet. It'd be between I guess Carson 7 and 9. Sans Fuller is the boss at the end of Rochester Halloween Hack. It's just referring to that I like the boss a lot because of how chaotic it is. And it's kind of obscure. That's the same thing as Adolf Lefty, except Adolf Lefty, he's the boss of a very Carson Sexmas, but he actually was gonna appear as the final boss of George Washington University instead of Anonymous, but that didn't happen. Making one of them Adolfs making one of them Hitler seemed too easy, so I did Mussolini instead, because it seems more original in a weird way. Anyways, Monica, this is kind of my placeholder name for Edix's name in my head. It was used in Xenu Student Union, and I think Froglegs wrote a note saying is Edix's real name Monica? I don't actually know what it is. But if she did have a name, that's probably what it would be, because often when I pick a name for someone that's a placeholder, it does not change, as evidenced by Spike and Turban and Lefty and Rock Puncher and all of those characters. Probably more of them. So yeah, the longer I have a placeholder name, the more it sticks. Horseman symbols, you can't really tell from this picture, but the horsemen each have a symbol associated with them, seen in their eyes. Pandora is circle, Molten Mike is, Pandora's circle, Molten Evil is diamond. Countdown is an explosion star shape, and this injection is a heart shape. It's seen a few times. The Deep Dark State employees have those symbols on their heads for some reason. I think Wrong is the heart shape, Stover is the explosion shape, and I can never remember Martin, and I can never remember if it's Michaels or Patterson. But those other two have circle and diamond shapes. The symbols are also seen in one of the rooms in Torrent Tunnels, where there's 4 of the shapes seen on, I guess it's not the shapes, but you see a candle, a box, a black ball thing, and a pointy thing, and that's supposed to represent the beds where I guess the paladins would have slept in Torrent Tunnels. The 4 keys, are they keys? I don't remember. You get 4 items, to access the areas in Torrent Tunnels, and one of them's a circle stone, one's a star, one's a heart, and one's a diamond. There's probably more references I'm forgetting, but it's just something with imagery. Though having one of your images be a circle is like kind of lame. Beastware Gold is a planned game I would have made if the Carson games didn't go on for so long. It would have been a game where I just make more micro games. It would have had the 25 from Xenu and then like 150-ish more. Instead, though, I kind of just put them in the Carson games. But it would have had like an endless mode and an option to play individual micro games. If I was an artist, I would have drawn like cutscenes and stuff and made like themed levels. But I'm not an artist, so Beastware Gold will probably never happen. Jackie Freud is the eldest Freud sibling. For the longest time, her name was Glacy, which is a really dumb name. It's like ice, but it's not a name. But I call her Jackie Freud. The reason for that is because Jack Frost Knight, seen in the Dark World, is now considered like the third Freud sibling with the introduction of Temuro. So now I call the eldest one Jackie Freud. She's mentioned, I don't think she's mentioned by name in Xenu 2, but they mentioned there's an eldest Freud sibling who died from hyperthermia. And she will have a role in Xenu 3 because there's going to be more Freud stuff in that. Xenon's mini-scrapped origins. So I talked about it a bit. Xenon was originally a character created by the Ghosts of Xeno original to help him break the rules of development. But other things are... The current one that I'm probably going to go with is that Xenon is just simply the other half of Xeno original that's split up, and the Ghosts of Xeno original is one of the halves. And that they're the same person. So it's basically they're fighting each other, and they're like... I think it was actually all the way back in Carson 6, Xenu said that Xenon is chasing something and wasting her time, or something, because it's just her. He is her, and she is him, I guess. Anyways. Other scrapped origins. At one point, Xenon was a creation made with the Gamaker headset that Martin made to punish him after the events of Xenu 3 because he felt so guilty about how much damage he caused to Hearth after learning about what Zeit had done, because Zeit was his creation. That felt too dependent on stuff in Xenu 3 that hasn't happened yet. Another concept was that Xenon was a failed demon from hell that had been sent up to, redeem herself. And she was there to figure out why Xeno Original wasn't dying, because he's, immortal. I scrapped that because that was a really stupid idea. Let me find the other ones, origins. What does it say? Xenon is Xeno's personal demonic. She looks like him because Martin... Oh, okay, so I'm reading one of my notes from September in 2024, so this is an old idea. I don't remember writing this at all. Okay, so this is saying Xenon looks like Xeno because Martin doesn't have anyone else he knows that she could impersonate. So it's saying maybe she's impersonating Ruby, which is why she looks like Xenuette. And then I wrote so I probably didn't like the idea. This one says, someone says she could destroy the entire world easily, but she's distracted by Xenu. If he wasn't invincible and he died, she would lose her distraction and destroy the world. I don't even remember writing that. That's stupid. Basically, the original idea I had was the one I ended up going with. Hate, libido, euphoria refers to the Xenon clones. Argon is hate, Radon is libido, and Neon is euphoria. That's why Argon says mean stuff about you being dead. That's why Radon says stuff about, wanting to eat you and, wanting to chase you. That's why Neon plays the micro game with you. And those were, I guess, according to me, those were the three things that Xenon represented. She's evil, she's horny, and she's happy, I guess. Were the three things, or three traits. Deep dive technology, that's a Xenu 3 thing. I was way too focused on how are these guys getting to the planet with the reality shield generator there and stuff. And then it was something like Zeit made her own reality shield generator, which doesn't make any sense. I think I was too concerned with like how Xenu and Xenuette would go about doing their stuff when like Richard Ver is going to be watching what they're doing and like wouldn't he stop them and stuff. Honestly, I don't think it's that important. But the deep dive technology would have involved this like way more intense headset thing where it's like involves like not prosthetics, but like full body attachments for them to like go to Hearth and do stuff. That would have explained, I guess, how. Maybe that would explain more how like Xenu would have gotten stuck in the Dark World or something if it was like more of an attachment or something. I don't know. I have time to figure it out. Duke Dorm, empty third floor. So I made Carson 1 in like 6 hours, and the third floor of Carson's dorm is like empty and has nothing there, and it's kind of weird. It's like one of a few rooms in the series that like doesn't serve any kind of purpose. What I was going to do in sexology is Carson told me to put in a bathroom that played elevator music or something, because he kept telling me to put that in. So I guess I'll do it. I think I already talked about Xenu characters ranked by power, but I did want to touch on Carson characters ranked by power. The Ghost of Xenu original has that list in Carson 7 that says who the powerful people are. It's just kind of funny that it mentions Unfungal at number 2, because it's not really a character, but like it did end up becoming way more important in the series over time. I think at the time it was just a throwaway line. It was meant to be like, who's this Unfungal character? We'll never know. But no, it ended up becoming like a major cornerstone of future games. It also mentioned Gloria's Xenu. I think that was the first time she was mentioned, and she didn't appear till 6. Let's see. The Great Carson Offensive. This would have been a game, a spin-off, where Carson explores a massive cave, and it's just like exploration based. Named after the Great Cave Offensive from Kirby Superstar. Probably not going to happen. I just thought it was a funny idea where Carson gets stuck in a cave and goes treasure hunting. Do I have the other ones? Okay, I only have Carson Goes to Nashville on here. So, I want to make another video I'm going to do for Xenu Week is going to be making a Carson game in 2 hours, and that'll involve Carson Goes to Nashville. But Carson Goes to Nashville would have been what Chaos 5 was. It was going to be Carson 5, it would have been Chaos 5, subtitle Carson Goes to Nashville. For some reason, I never gave it that title. But there's also, Carson had requested for me to make a game where he goes to Taiwan and a game where he goes to South Africa, so I'm going to package those two ideas with this one and make a game about Carson going to a train station for Xenu Week. Let's see. Okay. Carson 5 3-day loop. There was going to be a 3-day loop mechanic like Majora's Mask in Carson 5 originally. It'd bring back the clock mechanic from Duke University, and I guess time would have had to go really fast, but every time the time ended, you would die, so it would involve slowly progressing, making a bit of progress, and then unlocking shortcuts through, like, I guess the usage of keys or stuff, and that would allow you to get back to areas sooner, kind of like in Majora's Mask, how you unlock, like, warp points and stuff like that. Another thing is Senor Sex was going to have a really small role. He was, like, only going to be in the TSA offices, and it was going to have, like, a 2-player thing with him, and that was his only appearance that I was going to have, but instead he, like, is with you the whole game, pretty much. But, I kind of am tempted to try this idea. If I do, I would make a game called Northwestern Time Warp, where it's basically like that, except it uses a 3-day loop, and it turns O'Hare Airport into a much larger area. Like, you could go to more places. Airport Bus Driver, I'm writing it still, but it introduces a lot of locations. So, like, you could go to, like, the sketchy runway with all the O'Hares. You could go to the, like, blue hair place. You could go to the bathrooms. I don't know, stuff like that. If you're wondering why there is a real Rochester on Hearth, it's because Rochester, or the University of Rochester, used to actually be Earth in real life. So, when Carson 3 had the Dark World and Light World, but at the time of that game, the Light World was Earth, like our Earth, not Earth, Martin Payne, Gamaker's Earth. I didn't like that idea because I didn't want to ever represent, like, the real planet where we live, like us people outside of the game. I didn't want to show it in the same art style as, like, the rest of the game in RPG Maker. So that's why it was kind of retconned into being Hearth and the Dark World. And That fits way better with the lore, honestly, because people already use those rifts to go in between the light and dark world. But yeah, so Flo would have been someone from the real world, like our world. Not even someone from, like, the Martin Payne world. And I can't remember if I changed the dialogue, but the good thing is, like, when she says Earth, she means that she can mean the Dark World, because the Dark World is just called Earth, because Xenu Original made it. H.H. Xenu's backstory, I don't have this all planned yet, but it's kind of vague. H.H. Xenu went through some of the events that Light World Xenu did, but it's, like, unclear which ones did happen. Like, he went to Elder Post, he met all the same friends, he met Hans Fuller at some point, but it's like, did he blow up towns in Haven? One thing is that there is no Xenu Original in H.H. Xenu's story, so that means there's no time loop. So I guess that means Alien Route, since it's the canon route in Xenu 1, or the route that happened, and wasn't reset. That would mean that that's the one that happened, meaning I guess he didn't blow people up. But it's like, there's some vague thing that H.H. Xenu says regarding, like, his family. Like, he says his parents aren't around. And Wanda says something regarding, like, if mom and dad hadn't gone and ... So it's implying, like, they did something. And H.H. Xenu also says that he's, like, a being made out of code, even though he's alive. So it's like, what's the deal with that? So I don't know why I put it on here, because I don't actually have an explanation, but it's probably going to be stuff in 9, if I even mention it. But I think he's some kind of, like, weird code and human mixture, because he does, like, the exclamation point and, like, question mark symbols with his eyes, which, like, you know, humans can't do. Whitehall's in Carson 6. I don't remember if this was my footage or not, but it's a really blurry picture of it. It's referring to the fact that if you use Xenon's computer and, like, answer a really long series of questions, you can access the Whitehall Labs. I think this is its only appearance. It might be an 8, but there's some stuff here. This is a really blurry picture, but you can see the Chaos Rubies here. There's dead Xenos here. There's items here that she confiscated from Carson, so it's important stuff like the room key and I think his mirror, or like the whistle of the wind, stuff like that. There's a bunch of Chaos mods, enemies here. This is when it started introducing the idea that the Chaos mods were done by her because she was bored. Then there's cells. That's Talking Xenu, Paul Revere, Paul Revere's a human here, so he turned into a head at some point between this game and the 7th game. Barreled and Brian, or Barreled and Beli, I think. Hackstar, and then her, like, evil dungeon at the end. It's kind of neat, you can explore it. It doesn't really tell you anything, but nobody even went there, because, like, who's going to answer that really long even I can't answer the password, I always get stuff wrong. Xenu Tactics. This would, I don't know why this is, I mean, I know why it's on here, but it's, like, never going to happen. This would be a game like The Journey West that involves Light World and Dark World characters together, so it involves, like, Xenu, Devil, Carson, and Senor Sex as, like, a quartet as they travel around. And I think it was because I wanted a game that would combine the Light and Dark World. That's kind of what this ended up being, but that's also just a planned game, so we'll see if that ever happens. Xenu Tactics is really just an idea. It's barely even a game, it's just mostly a title. Xeno in Hawaii. So I know this would have been a Xenu 4, but I don't know what this game would have been about. The Ghost of Xeno Original references it in Carson 4, when he says he's going to go to Hawaii and make Xeno in Hawaii. But, like, I don't know what the game would have been. I think it would have been, after the events of Xeno 3, Gamaker sends Martin Payne to Hawaii as, like, a thank you for, like, I guess, saving the world. And, like, what the game would have been, no idea. Maybe it was just a title. Alright, finally we have the bottom. So, okay, this picture. So, I probably talked about it before. I can say it here. So, Adsy.me was a website that I used to make point-and-click games. One of those was Five Nights at Eddie's, which is the thing in Carson 6. One of those games was called Frog Legs, and involved clicking this picture of a frog as it would move around the screen, and you'd get points. And there was a second stage involving a desert frog, which is what Toad Toes is based on. that picture of the brown frog is the exact image I used in that that Frog Legs game. This was like 2015, so it was a pretty old game. That's why Frog Legs is one of the oldest characters. Like, he actually predates... He either predates Xenu or he's, like, around the same time as Xenu, but Frog Legs wasn't really officially a character until, like, the stop-motion paper video I made in, like, 2016 later. So... yeah, Frog Legs, this is just a recreation of what the title screen would have looked like. Obviously I don't have the game anymore, but it would have looked like that from my memory. But, yeah, Toes is actually one of the oldest characters. He's, like, as... That's like, a little facetious, because, like, Toes didn't exist. The characterization wasn't until I made Carson 5, but, like, the concept of a Toad character who was based on Frog Legs is a concept from 2015, making him, like, a pretty old reference. I could recreate this game pretty easily, but, like, it wasn't that good. One thing of note, though, is Toes would hide behind cactuses, which made him harder to catch. As, like, Cactus Charles, was it a reference? I don't know, probably not. Oh, there's Unglorious Xenu. Well, I kind of already mentioned her. The evil Xenu. At one point, she was going to be the final boss. It was going to be, like, Glorious Xenu, when she was evil, would get on Fungal, and you'd have to fight her. And another idea was that Unglorious Xenu and Glorious Xenu would be the same person. Like, you think that they were two separate people, but because you never see them at the same time, and then it's revealed it's like alternate identities. That's not gonna happen, though. Okay, not talking about this one. I don't know why I put that on here. Does not, 1-4 does not stand for abhorrent death, I'll tell you that. I don't know why it's on there, though. Xenu 4, Xenu Goes to Hell. This would have been a concept for Xenu Built a Snowman. Xenu Built a Snowman, the idea was going to be everyone dies, and then the next game is Xenu has to go, I guess, save his friends, because they're stuck in hell for some reason. And it would have been like a scary psychological horror game where you go in each character's like personal hell and have to save them. That would have involved Master Infinite too. Master Infinite's actually a really old concept. Like, for the longest time he was the Greater Devil. But, like, I think Master Infinite might be an older idea than, like, Zeit, or, like, definitely an older idea than the Dark World. Like, I think, like, Master Infinite is, like, late 2022. He was, like, he's existed before, like, Central was done. But, yeah, it would have involved, like, bargaining with him since he's, like, the devil or whatever. Didn't happen, and it's a really bad idea for a game. But, Xenu's Beastworks Challenge will maybe deal with those ideas a little bit, since, in a weird way, HH Xenu is kind of that alternate Xenu where he did lose all his friends. Santa's Present. So, in a very Carson Sexmas, if you get the Santa's Present event too many times, like 8 times, it stops the game and shows you a video where this guy dressed as Santa basically flashes the camera. It like cuts off right before it shows it. But so it's like it doesn't actually show anything, but it's like kind of weird I put it in. Like what was I doing at the time, you know? Like I didn't get it in the video, but it's like what the heck, you know? I mean I put it in Chaos 5 again, so like what does that say about me that I put it in again? That's probably the like worst thing I've ever put in one of my games. Carson Gets a Backbone. Carson apparently said that he wanted me to make this game, not Carson Gets Sexiled, so that really changed the narrative. I'd always thought that Carson Gets Sexiled was like something he wanted me to make, a game about him getting sexiled. But he said, no, make... Let me find the message, hang on. I have my same phone, so I think Carson... So I said, Carson grows a backbone, he said. And then he said, can you make that a Xenu game? And I said, Carson Gets Sexiled, because he said, this was in response, he said, okay, so he said, Sexiled again, the buck stops here, Carson grows a backbone, Eli, can you make that a Xenu game? And then I said, Carson Gets Sexiled, LOL, now I will. And then, Oh yeah, that's when I said, I'll make it 2015 quality, where none of the rooms have walls, and you just walk to arbitrary places to continue to other rooms. So that's funny. I guess I was saying I was gonna make it like an old Xenu game or like a Henry game, but then later I said, wait, Carson, did you want me to make Carson get sexiled or Carson gets a backbone? He says no, Carson grows a backbone. And then I said, dang, I wanted to make the former. Carson has to find stuff to do on Duke while his roommate has sex. And I guess, just guess what Duke's campus looks like. And then, yeah, we kind of stopped talking about it after that. But that's kind of funny. So apparently he wanted this game, and I don't know what this would have involved, so that's why I didn't make it. Sloop and Onion. If there's one thing I'm glad I didn't make, it was Ban Sloop and Onion. This would have been 2023. Yeah, this would have been after I made Student Union. I already don't know why I made that game, but because my Ban videos did so well, I was planning on making a Ban Student Union game where I just made another lazy thing where I put faces over it. Thank God I didn't. That's all I can say. The Z side. This is talking about Carson 5. I wanted Carson 5 to be like the game Off-Peak, which I just now made a video about. I wanted it to be this surreal airport where it's weird paintings and weird 3D models and stuff like that. Obviously that didn't happen because I'm not an artist, and I like Carson 5, but the Z side would have been a version of the game that captured that original surreal feeling I was going for with it. XORSKJ is a game that used to exist, and I don't have it anymore, but it was basically empty maps from Xenu, where you would wander around an empty room with creepy ambient music in the background, and that was the entire game. It was just wandering the empty maps of Xenu. I don't know what the point of it was. I think it was to make map templates that I could easily copy and paste and not have to delete all the events in them and save time. But I was trying to have I think I had a description written. It's one day Xenu woke up to find an empty world. He wandered around in hopes of blah blah blah. I had a story for it. And then there was the mystery of what happened to everyone. It didn't happen though. So this one, I'm not going to say the title, but it would have involved a stressful resource management game where you basically have to plan the event. You don't get to see anything. It's solely text based, where you need to manage your resources and try not to go bankrupt. I guess that was the whole bit of it. Is it has a title that's egregious like that, and then it's actually a resource management game, and it's not gonna happen. Hell on Planet Earth mode would have been the spiritual successor to the Chaos mods that would have been in Carson 7. I was gonna add it if Carson played it and thought the game was too hard, because Carson 7's really hard, but he never played it, so I didn't ever end up adding it. But what it would have done is, it would have added. It would have made the game easier. It would have added places to save and way more healing, but at the cost of chaos events, meaning the screen would be covered up and it would be really hard to hear anything. So it's you can make the game easier, but at the cost of your sanity. That never happened because who would it be for? Chaos 5 is not a good game. I don't need to make any more of them, as fun as they were. My Totos. This is a game I still kind of want to make. I was originally planning to make it as a celebration of the series. It would have been for Xenu's anniversary. It would be a game where you have to take care of Totos. What it was in response to was, when I was a student at college, I was constantly walking around dehydrated. I had to go to the bathroom all the time. I'd be tired all the time. I'd be hungry all the time. And there's a thing in Carson 5 where Totos yells, "It's too hot" or "It's too cold," that I think is really funny regarding the temperature mechanic, because it's not helpful at all. And I would think that in my head. I would think of him yelling, "I'm hungry," or stuff like that. "I'm thirsty," "I'm tired." Just him yelling in all caps that he has something wrong with him. And I was what if I made that into a game where you have to click these bars to keep him fed and stuff like that, make it really unfun. I never made the game. I could probably whip that up in an hour, but it would have had to use the mouse though, and the mouse is always a pain to use. But then I had the idea to expand it into this life sim game where you have to take care of your Totos, and it involves like going to stores and like buying furniture and like stuff like that, and it gets more convoluted. Like you have to like prepare for like hazardous weather, you have to like prepare against bandits, you have to prepare for like a curfew and stuff like that. And it would have been a celebration of the series because it would have a mix of light and dark world characters in it that serve roles. Maybe I'll make it one day, but I don't know. For now, it's staying there. Then finally we get to this one. So the game Forspoken, I think it came out in like 2021 or something, but that game involves 4 people called the Tanta that fought this, I think his name's Thesaurus or something. It was like this evil wizard guy. They killed him, and they separated his soul into 4 pieces, into these cuffs that they wore. And the cuffs slowly made them evil and made them like attack their people. And yeah, I kind of see a parallel between that idea and like the Horsemen of the Apocalypse idea. And it's like, of all the plots, like my thing to be similar to, it happens a lot where like I think I have original ideas. Like I thought the Mushroom Zombies was original, and then like I forgot about like The Last of Us and stuff like that. Of all the like plots for my thing to be close to, it had to be the plot of Forspoken of all the games. Though in Forspoken, Frey doesn't really save them. She kind of just like kills them all, and then like the evil guy comes together at the end anyway. So my plot's better, I think, than that one. And yeah, that's the Carson and Xenu 3 / Kind of Journey West Iceberg. Hope you liked it. I'll probably make another one of these in like another 3. Has it really been 3 years? No, 2 years. Okay.